You are now listening to Talk Your Jits podcast.
Welcome back to the Talk Your Jits podcast. This podcast is, as the name implies, all about Jiu Jitsu. I'm your host, Lamar Smith, and today's guest is a four-stripe blue belt who trains at Nashville MMA, located in Nashville, Tennessee. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Hunter.
Hey, I'm happy to be on, man. Thanks for having me.
Man, the pleasure is all mine, man. The pleasure is all mine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Just kind of wrapped up a work day and sat down to do this.
Awesome, man. Like I said, I do appreciate you taking your time out of your day to do this episode with me. But without further ado, if you want to go ahead and formally introduce yourself again, by all means, go ahead and let's hear about your jiu-jitsu journey.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Paul Hunter. I'm 54 years old. I started training at 49 years old, which in jiu-jitsu age, that's ancient, starting at 49. But I jumped in with both feet. I quickly became addicted to jiu-jitsu. I love it. First 2 years, I trained 6 days a week and had a lot of people tell me that's too much, especially at your age. But I did it. Probably should have backed off a little bit. I suffered probably a few more injuries than I should have, but most of them got all the way back to good. I got a right shoulder that's never gotten 100%, but I can deal with it now. But yeah, so I did 6 days a week the first 2 years, got my blue belt, and I tried to back off to 4 days a week, and I missed it too much. So I started doing 5 or 6 days a week again. So now I train 4 days a week at 6 a.m. And then on Saturdays, I actually lead a drilling session. So we have anywhere from, sometimes it's just 2 or 3, sometimes it's 12 or 14 people come in, and we'll drill fundamentals, just basic fundamentals. We'll drill for 2 or 3 hours. And so I love it. I've done a lot of competition. So it's become a huge part of my life now. So that's basically, that's where I am today. So we can go back and talk about like what made me want to do jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. But so that's me today, training 6 a.m. classes 4 days a week. And then I lead a drilling session on Saturdays, fundamental drilling, which to me, that's probably the thing. First of all, I have a phenomenal instructor. My instructor is an incredible black belt, phenomenal athlete. He's really good at coaching. He's very good at communicating. That's the thing that's helped me the most. But after that, the drilling of the fundamentals, the basics, I think that's helped me more than anything else. It's just going in there on Saturdays and working on Toriando passes, X passes, butterfly sweeps, flower sweeps, scissor sweeps, working on basic submissions and, just simple arm locks and chokes and things like that. That's really helped me a lot.
That's awesome. And it's funny you say that because we were just having, like, me and a couple, another brown belt at our school, we were talking to just a couple of white belts, and they're, we're just going over techniques and stuff. And one thing we talked about is like when you get to like that, black belt level, even especially in competition, 9 times out of 10 is usually the basic stuff people get caught with, arm bars and rear neck chokes, like literally the stuff that you learn your first few weeks of class. So as you said, that, fundamentals is always important.
Yep. It makes me think of the year, there were multiple years, but one year especially, Roger Gracie, I think it was Worlds that he won, and he basically did the same thing to everybody. He got to mount, and he did a cross choke from mount, and he beat everybody. He beat all the best black belts in the world. Fundamentals. So let's kind of like take a couple steps back. So, because you said starting jiu-jitsu at as a old man in jiu-jitsu terms. Yeah.
So what got you started? What got you, like, what hooked you in?
So I wrestled in high school. And I only wrestled 2 years. So I wasn't like some phenomenal, state champ wrestler or anything like that. In fact, the second year I won more matches than I lost, and I considered that a victory, right? So I wrestled sophomore and junior year and absolutely loved it. I loved it. I loved the discipline of it. I love just the combat, the physical, back and forth, one-on-one. Really enjoyed it. I didn't get to wrestle my senior year because if I wanted to have a car and be able to drive and afford gas, I had to work. So I chose working and having a car over wrestling. But I honestly, from that point forward, for the next 20 years, I walked around feeling like a wrestler, right? I felt like that was a part of me. Like I learned how to wrestle, actually, 30 years after that, right? So, until I was 48. So I had this mentality, like I learned something that it's a skill that not everybody has. And I still believe to this day that wrestling is the best base for any martial art on the planet, period. It's the best base for any martial art on the planet. So I walked around thinking, I'm a wrestler. That's what I thought inside, right? And so at times my wife and I have been married 33 years. We have 2 grown daughters now. Yep. So my oldest daughter is 27, my youngest daughter 26, my youngest daughter is 21. And so I'm raising these girls, and there were times in my life when you stop and think as a father, like about protecting your family, right? Well, to me, I always felt like most people don't have a wrestling base. I have an advantage when it comes to standing up for my family, defending us or whatever. What I didn't know is that for all those years, 30 years that I walked around thinking that, while that was true, had someone tried to harm us who knew Jiu Jitsu, they could have shut down some of my wrestling for sure. So anyway, but let me back up. So I get out of high school. Some friends of mine, we had this little makeshift MMA club, right? So we would get together, just a group of us, and like sometimes we would say, today we're only boxing, right? So we would only box. Sometimes we would say, today we're only wrestling, no striking. So sometimes we'd put the headgear on and say, okay, we're going to go all out, but just, don't punch in the nose because we've all got to go to work tomorrow, that sort of thing.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. So then my first daughter's born. I'm married. All this stuff is going on. So during that same time, in the early to mid 90s, the first UFC happened, right? So I, like so many others, I watched Royce Gracie do what he did, and I was just mesmerized. I said, here's this guy who's 6 feet tall, 170 pounds. I think he's 6 feet tall, but he's kind of long and lean. He's not that big. And he's beating these people who look like cartoon characters, these big, jacked,
action figures,
muscled up action figures, and he's beating boxers and wrestlers and karate people. And I was like, whatever he's doing, I want to learn that. Right. I mean, I wanted to learn that. But again, I got 2 little girls, I'm raising my family. I'm trying to build a career. It's hard to squeeze that in. Right. So it was always in my mind, one day I want to do it. So I watched all those first UFCs, and I watched what Royce Gracie did to everybody. And I thought, one day. Now, fast forward. My oldest daughter's gone to college. My youngest daughter's driving. She had turned 16. She had a car. She was driving. There wasn't as much need for my wife and for myself to like take them to plays and softball practice and school or whatever. So I had some more free time, and I started thinking, I want to do something like that. Right. So I started digging in and just kind of reading about it and checking around locally. And honestly, in my mind, I was thinking, where can I wrestle as an adult? right? Well, when you start looking for a place to wrestle as an adult, it's hard to find a place. But there are all these jiu-jitsu schools. And so I thought, man, I thought, I'm going to do this, right? I know I'm in my late 40s, but I'm going to do this. So I actually started interviewing. Like, I would go to a gym and I would talk to the professor or the owner, and I would just kind of fill him out. And what's your school all about? What's the vibe here? And so I was kind of checking some different ones. So I walked into a school where my coach, Kevin Patterson, he had his own gym at the time. Okay. He's always trained at Nashville MMA. That's where he got his black belt. It's where he started from day one. He was a college athlete. And then after that, started training jiu-jitsu. So he'd always been there. But while he was still training there, he had opened up his own small jiu-jitsu gym. And so I saw a listing or something, or I saw the sign, called him, talked to him, asked him a million questions. He was probably sick of me interviewing him, So I said, I'm going to come check it out. And I had done a trial class at a couple other places. I walked into his gym. The very first time I met him, and I was there for an hour, I walked out of there and I said, this is who I'm going to train with. This is it. He knew how to communicate with me. He seemed like a super intelligent guy, which he is. And I just liked the vibe I got from him. So the first class, I don't know, I know every gym is different, but with him at the time, like, not everybody rolls their first class, right? Right. So, but what he did is he said, we're going to show the technique and we're going to drill it, and I'll just kind of assess, where you are and all that stuff. So at the end, he's like, listen, you wrestled a couple years in high school. It's obvious that you got a little bit of skill here. Like, you can roll. We'll just kind of go easy. And so from the very first class, I got to roll. Nice. And I've been with him ever since. So I'm 2 months away from 5 years training. He closed that school and rolled back to where he's teaching, just at the gym at Nashville MMA, where I train now. But I'll never forget this. So my first class, there was a young lady there, Amanda Grunden. Maybe she'll hear this sometime. But she ended up moving to California, and now she's married and had a baby out there, and she trained at Atos with Andre Galvao out there. But anyway, when she was here, she was a blue belt. Okay. And so I was brand new white belt. And so as we started to roll, we're switching partners. So it was my turn to roll with her. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, what do I do here? Like, here's this 30-pound female, right? And at the time, I was 185, 190-pound male. And like, I wrestled a couple of years, and I'm thinking, I don't want to hurt her. Like, how do you win there, right? If you dominate her and hurt her, you're a jerk,
right?
If she beats you, then you feel like, this is what I thought. You feel like you look like a loser because you just got beat by a girl that's 40, 50 pounds lighter than you. So I literally was thinking, well, I don't want to hurt her. Like, how do I do this? So coach says, go, and so I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to kind of go easy and fill this out. Lamar, like, literally within 15 seconds, she had an arm bar. And I thought my elbow was going to explode. I literally thought my elbow was going to explode. And I'm like, tap, 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 tap. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have to go harder than that.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like, it was the most amazing thing. I was like, this feminine 130-something pound girl just absolutely destroyed me. And I was like, I've got to do more of this. And so I started training all the time. And funny thing is, there's another school where the instructor at that school had also trained with my instructor for 10 or 11 years. And on Saturdays, they would have kind of an open mat at this other location. And so I go there, and there was another young lady. And this is so funny to me because she's the exact same age as my oldest daughter. Okay. So now I'm 54. She's 26, I think. Right. So when I started training, I was 49. So she was 21 or 22. Right. And this girl So I'm thinking she's the same age as my daughter. She's a young
Mhm.
girl, right? Now I know at 21 she's a young lady, but I had a 21-year-old daughter. So to me, she's a girl.
Right.
She's a little girl.
She's a little girl. Yeah. Yeah.
She's a black belt now. At the time, she was a purple belt. I did everything in my power just to not get destroyed by her, to no avail. She just could completely wreck me. And I watched her do that to guys that were over 200 pounds. I watched her do it to purple belts, and I was just like, this jujitsu, there's something incredible about this, and I want more of it. And so I got addicted. Like I said, I trained 6 days a week the first 2 years. I still do 5 days a week now. I've done almost 20 tournaments.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's such a part of my life. And now both my daughters have moved out. They're both married. So it's just me and my wife at home. So I get up, I go to the 6 a.m.s, I come home, I go to work. And in the evening, after my wife and I have dinner and hang out a little bit, I'm studying jujitsu. I'm watching videos. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm, watching instructionals, Bernardo Faria, Andre Galvao. It's all if I don't control what I think about, I default to thinking about jujitsu 24 hours a day.
24/7. 24/7. That is me in a nutshell too. I train now like 4 days, give or take 4 days a week. I'm at the gym every day, and that's literally all it is now. Gym and jujitsu.
Yeah.
Gym and jujitsu. Like I'll be done with class and I'll be sitting on my phone and scrolling Instagram or YouTube and jujitsu techniques all over the place. So yeah, I know how that is. I completely get that.
Yep.
And that's ironically how I came across your page. I was scrolling one day, and a friend, training partner sent the video, and I just kept going down this rabbit hole, and come across a video of a gentleman and his dog, and I believe this technique was, I think it was, was it?
Maybe the Bravo choke.
There you go, Bravo choke.
Yep.
And I watched this video at least about 10 times. I'm looking, I'm like, all right, this has to be the most coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. This man is sitting here doing jujitsu with his dog, and I'm looking like the dog is in it.
Yeah.
Belt and all. I mean, like I showed my wife, I showed, everybody I trained with. I was like, dude, you guys gotta see this video. And we're just like laughing, but I was like, they was like, so you gonna invite him? I was like, yes, of course. So that's when I sent you the message, like, hey, I know, I know this might be weird because I've messaged a lot of people I've never met about being on the show, but I was like, I would be honored to have you on the show because I have to hear the story of how this started.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it happened like that. I'll tell you this, and we'll go back and touch on that whole story, but once things started to blow up with me, and this is Wrigley right here. He's beside me. So this is my boy. This is the one I do jujitsu with, the best dog on the planet ever. There's no question about it. But I'll tell you, I've had, since our videos started to blow up, I've had four or five people reach out and ask me to do podcasts. And honestly, I listen to them, and I'm not knocking any of them. There's some cool podcasts, but I don't know. They just didn't feel like the vibe was right. You sent me the request, and I started listening to your podcast, and I like the vibe I got. I like, you love jujitsu the way I love jujitsu, and you don't have any false pretenses or anything. You're just like, hey, I'm just a dude that loves jujitsu, and I'm trying to get better. And I was like, I think I want to be. So I listened to a bunch of the episodes, and I said, yeah, I want to be on there. So I'll tell you the funny story about how this happened with Wrigley. And like I said, you can see he's the chillest dog in the world. So I've had dogs my whole life. I had a couple of Labrador Retrievers. Like I had one for 13 years when I was growing up. My wife and I had another one for 12 years. I had some bully breeds back in the day. I had like some pit bulls and some Staffordshire Terriers, and I actually used to help train dogs. I've trained like Rottweilers and German Shepherds, and I've helped friends train dogs. So my wife and I, when we lost our last yellow lab, my oldest daughter, was 13, and she wanted a little dog. I'd never had a little house dog, little inside dog before, but we got her one. It was a little Maltese, a Maltese Shih Tzu mix. Ended up being the best little dog. She was a sweet little dog, and she lived about 11 years, had a lot of health complications at the end, and so we lost her 2.5 years ago in November. Okay, so my daughters still laugh at me because I said no more dogs right now. Like, I'm enjoying not having the responsibility of a dog. Right? If mom and I want to just pack up and go somewhere, we don't have to worry about a dog. Well, my oldest daughter knew that she was going to be moving out after she got her master's degree, and she was thinking she wanted a dog, and she wanted to rescue some sort of pit bull or bully mix type thing. She wanted to do a rescue. So I started looking to help her find a dog, right? That's how it all started. So I would go to the shelter and I would look at dogs, and there would be one, and she'd say, "Oh, Dad, did you see this one at the Humane Society?" And I would go look, and I would say, "Yeah, Mackenzie, this dog's a little too aggressive. Like, I think you'd have to be concerned," that sort of thing. So then I started getting the itch, and I wanted a dog for me again. So I walked into the National Humane Association that day, and this is the weirdest thing. Okay, so I'm not trying to convince anybody of religious beliefs or anything, but I believe this was a God thing. Okay, so I walk in that day, and I'd been in there over and over. This particular day, I walk in, and the director of the facility just happens to walk out of her office. Okay. Now, I don't know if it was because I was dressed for work, so I had on a shirt and tie, dress clothes or everything. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but she walks out of her office and she sees me and she says, "Hey, how are you?" And she comes up and starts talking to me. So I told her why I was there, and she's like, "Oh, wait a minute." She's like, "You've got some experience with bully type breeds?" I said, "Oh, yeah. I used to have them. I've raised them. I've trained them." She's like, "This is perfect. You've got to see this dog." She's like, "We have this dog that came in." So he came from a high kill shelter. So a shelter where, a lot of the dogs get put to sleep. He came from there. She had a love for this type of dog. And so when she found out about him, she's like, "We can't let this dog be euthanized." So she brought him to Nashville Humane. She said, "You got to see him." So I don't know if you ever look for dogs at a shelter, but like a lot of the dogs are just kind of like, pick me, please, pick me. And then some of them are scared to death and they run away, and you can tell something's wrong with them. Wrigley did neither. Okay. Wrigley just looked at me, and Lamar, I'm telling you, it was like he looked through my eyes into my soul. And it wasn't like a please pick me. It was like, you see me, right? Like,
you know what's up.
Yeah, I'm serious. It was like the deal. And I looked at this dog and I was like, I got to put this dog on a leash and take him outside and walk him, right? So I called my wife and I'm like, "You're not going to believe this, but I think I'm coming home with a dog." She's like, "What? I thought you said no more dogs." So in order to not make this too long, while I'm walking him outside, he didn't sit. He didn't act like he knew how to heel, to come. And I was thinking, what am I getting myself into? Like, here's a dog who at the time he was a little over 2 years old. And I'm thinking, he has no training whatsoever. He was way underweight. And I'm thinking, what am I getting myself into? But I'm telling you, I could not walk away from there without him. We get home, and I still had work to do from that day. I was kind of stressed out about some work stuff. So I put this blanket in the floor beside my bed, and I've still got the picture online and everything. And I'm like, "Hey, buddy," I said, "I got to get some work done. Just lay right here." He laid there the whole time I did my work, never made a peep. Whenever I finished up with my work, I started playing with him, giving him treats. Within 5 minutes, he was sitting. Within 5 minutes, he was staying. Everything I started teaching this dog, he learned it. And so we literally have become like best friends in the world. I mean, you can see right now I'm here, so he's laying right behind me.
Chilling.
Yeah, if I'm sitting watching YouTube videos at night, he's either laying on my feet or under my feet. So he's, I don't know if you can tell in the screen here, but he's 85 pounds, solid muscle. He was about 65 when I got him, but he's about 85 pounds, solid as a rock. The sweetest dog you've ever met. Little dogs, big dogs. He loves every dog. He loves every animal. He's so sweet. And so here I am. I love jiu-jitsu, right? I love him. He loves to wrestle and roughhouse. And so I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going to have some fun and kind of do a little jiu-jitsu with him, right? And so I did a couple funny little videos. This was like 2 years ago, shortly after I got him. And my wife was like, Paul, people would love those videos. And I'm like, no. She's like, I'm telling you, Paul, people would love those videos. I didn't really do much with it at all, right? Well, about 7 weeks ago, I said, okay, I'm going to post some of these videos. I have been blown away. Like, it's unreal. The one you were talking about, you saw, the Bravo choke. We have 3.4 million views now. Wow. I have another one. I think it's the scissor sweep that's 1 million views. Another one that's 1 million views. And now every video we do, I mean, we're getting a minimum 20,000 views. A lot of them are going over 100,000 views. And people have just fallen in love with this.
Yeah. So I want people to understand like this, the severity of awesomeness is, because if you haven't seen these videos, like I had one pulled up to the side, which was like by far one of my favorite ones, was the when you were explaining like the anaconda versus Darce choke. And I was like, I have to bring this on so you guys can see this, to show you how serious this is. But just check this out, and once I play this, you guys will instantly fall in love. But here we go.
Okay, Wrigley's going to help me show you guys the difference in the anaconda choke and the Darce choke as far as grips go. Okay, so when you get your opponent in front of you and you get in a front headlock position, the easiest way to remember this is, let's come a little closer. Okay, the easiest way to remember this is, from the front headlock position, anaconda, you're going in by the neck and out under the armpit, okay? So in by their neck, out under the armpit, you wrap your grips up. You can gator roll or not. With the Darce choke, you're going in by the armpit and out by the neck, and you wrap up your grips that way. So anaconda, in under the neck, out through the armpit. Darce, in through the armpit, out through the neck. That's the difference in the anaconda choke and the Darce choke. And Wrigley, for being the best uke in the world, you get another treat. Good job, buddy. Aren't you?
I'm like, come on, man. Come on.
I couldn't hear the sound there. Could you hear the sound?
Oh, the sound didn't play, but yeah, the sound played. Like I said, this was like by far one of my favorite videos. And this is the one I was like, okay, I got to hear the story. Because he was by far the best uke I've ever seen. As long as I've trained, this is by far the best uke I've ever seen.
He's so chill. I'm telling you, so he can be running around attacking me, play fighting, biting me or whatever. And when we get in the floor to grapple, like he just becomes this mush. He's like, okay, Dad, do whatever you need. Like, tell me which way you want me to bend. It's just incredible. And so people have fallen in love with it. So people started demanding merchandise. That's why you see this.
Yeah, I saw that. Because that was one of the things I was like, I'm watching the videos. I was like, he never tapped.
Yeah.
Never seen Wrigley tap.
Yeah. So that became the thing. I would say I would get him in a choke or whatever. And obviously I'm not applying too much pressure,
Of course.
But I would say something like Wrigley never taps. And so people started saying, we want merchandise. Wrigley never taps. So we did the t-shirt, and now we've got a hoodie, and we've got a couple other t-shirts. And
yeah,
it's such a blessing. And, I had some of the people who comment and follow us. Well, here's another thing. Okay. I think when this started, I had 500 followers on Instagram, 500. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have 35,000 followers now in like 7 weeks. Wrigley, his account is Wrigley the Bulldog, DAWG, Wrigley the Bulldog, DAW. He's got 12,000 followers now on his account.
Yep. And I am one of them.
Yeah. But when it really took off, one of our followers said, he said something like this. He said, you act like it's about the jiu-jitsu, but it's really about the Bulldog, isn't it? Right. And I said, yes. But then I said, or maybe I want the world to love jiu-jitsu. Why would they listen to a 54-year-old blue belt? How am I going to convince them? But if they fall in love with Wrigley the Bulldog and they watch us on Instagram and somebody says, I'd like to try jiu-jitsu, maybe it's really about the jiu-jitsu. We'll never know.
Never know. Never know.
But I just
promise you, if I would have,
people are loving it, and they're saying such kind things. And so honestly, I say this, and it sounds cliche, but like, if I can make people smile, if I can share a little love, and if somebody says, hey, I also learned some jiu-jitsu technique, man, Wrigley and I are just thrilled. We're thrilled. We made somebody smile, and we taught them something about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, definitely. If I never trained jiu-jitsu and I saw that video, I'd have been like, yeah, I'm getting a dog and I'm about to start training. Because I like you say, he's just so comfortable, and he just knows. He's just like, all right, he wants me here, I'm gonna be here, and he's just ready.
Yeah. And some people are like, the dog is obviously scared. You can tell he's licking his lips, or he's uncomfortable. He doesn't like this. And I'm like, if you could spend 5 minutes in my living room floor with this dog, you would not say that. In fact, my last couple like flow rolling videos with Wrigley, you can see his tail was doing this the whole time. He loves it. He loves it.
Committed, full gi, rash guard, everything. So
yep.
Because I was even scrolling through the videos like, what's his rank? Because I know he has to be at least 2 stripes right now.
Well, so he's getting some stripes or a belt really soon. I can't reveal.
Oh
something's
man,
happening soon.
Please let me know when that happens.
Yeah, something's happening soon.
Oh man. All
but
right.
Yeah, he gives me 35,000 people wouldn't follow me. Mm-hmm. What would the reason be, right? He gives me a platform, and I hope that from that platform I can share a little love, a little happiness, and a little bit of jiu-jitsu. If I can do that, man, God has blessed me tremendously.
But it's like a cycle. You found something you love, which is your jiu-jitsu and dogs, and you're at a point where you can combine the love of both.
Yep.
And it's working out beautifully.
Yep, it is.
Beautifully. Yeah. So let's get back to the gritty stuff. Competing.
Yes.
So not only starting at an older age, also throwing your hat in the ring to compete as much as you did. What was that like? Like when you decided, like, you know what, I'm going to compete.
So sometimes for me, I will allow a short-term goal to kind of mess up my long-term goal, right? Mm-hmm. So my long-term goal with jiu-jitsu was learn jiu-jitsu, enjoy it, get really good at it, be better at defending myself if I have to, be better at defending my family if I have to. I hope I never have to, but that's my long-term goal, right? Well, my short-term goal became, I want to win. I want to beat everybody I can beat. I want to be, I want to win. And there for a little while, I really let that short-term goal, win, almost get in the way of my long-term goal, right? So I had to back off. I've got a super competitive nature. So in anything I do, anything. So when I started training in July of 18. Okay. I did my first tournament August of 18. I'd been training. Yes. I'd been training a month. I did a tournament. Now here's the crazy thing. I won the tournament.
Nice.
I got lucky. Okay. The person who was in my bracket had been training a short time also. And so I won, right? And so, but that just fired the juices up even more. And so I started signing up for more and more. Now, here's the tricky thing with me that a lot of people don't have to deal with is my age and my size, okay? There were not a lot of 50, 51, 50, whatever, white belts when I was still a white belt. So I was a rare commodity, right? A 51-year-old white belt, there aren't that many competing. And so what would happen is that I would either have to go down in age. Sometimes I would have to do the 40 and up, sometimes the 30 and ups, a lot. Or they would say, hey, there is another 50-year-old, but he's a super heavy or he's a heavyweight or whatever. And so I always had to kind of pick, what do I do? Sometimes I did the younger guys. Sometimes I did the heavier guys, but I started competing right out of the gate. I got off to a really good start if you're looking at wins and losses, right? I won several tournaments. I won a lot of matches. And then I went through this period where I was losing a lot of matches. And I got really down on myself. And I started thinking, man, maybe I'm just not good at this. Maybe I'm not going to be a good competitor. And a few times I had to have people sort of shake me back to reality. And I'll tell you one of those times. So there's a guy here around Nashville who does a lot of tournaments. He's a really, really good blue belt. Okay, this was early when I was a blue belt. He was a pretty new blue belt. And so we did a tournament, and he was my first match. And we go out there, and we're fighting for the takedown, and boom, I get the takedown, right? I feel like I'm in control. I hadn't scored anything except the takedown, but I felt like I was in control. I was, I had this thing, right? And the next thing I know, man, he just somehow reversed it on me. He ended up getting me on my back. He had me in an arm bar. He tapped me with an arm bar, right? So I'm after the match, I'm kind of like, man, I cannot believe this. I'm disgusted. I lost. I should have won that match. So my coach was there, and my wife just happened to be at this tournament, right? So this is a couple of years ago. So my coach looks at me, Kevin, and he says, Paul, how long have you and Michelle been married? And we're like, this was 2 years ago. We're like 31 years. He's like, you know how old that guy is? 31. He's like, you've been married as long as that kid's been
alive.
Shake it off, Paul. Shake it off. And so sometimes I have to be reminded of that, But I've done a lot of tournaments. I did probably about half and half. I probably did 9 or 10 at white belt, 9 or 10 at blue belt. I did Pan Ams. I've done a couple big IBJJFs. I love competing. I win some, I lose some, but I feel like every tournament makes me better. And actually the prep leading up to the tournament makes me better. So I just love it.
Yeah, man. That's, I'm in that same boat. You don't see a lot of brown belts competing. So usually when I just recently started competing like a year ago, like I did my first one at purple and I did like 2 more at currently at brown. And the last 2 tournaments I've, faced the same people. So it's like, we get 1 or 2 matches in. It's always the same, same little small group because not only competing, older, the bracket's thin, and plus being a brown belt, that makes it even thinner. So you by the time you hit, like our matches is usually like we'll get a random purple belt whose division, people in their division show. So we might get an extra person, but 9 times out of 10 it's usually like 2 people. Yeah. So it's like I did was that Grappling Industries, the last 2 Grappling Industries, and both times was the same guy that I did, in the tournament. So I was like, first time I met him, it was a good match. Then second time I saw him, I was like, so we doing this again, huh? He's like, yeah, it looks like it. So both gi and no gi. I was like, all right, man, let's get it. But it's fun, man. Like you said, the more tournaments you do, it's like you look forward to that next one. You be in the middle of your role, like, oh, I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah,
I might sign up as soon as this match is over. I'm signing up.
Yep.
So I'm planning on doing Tap Cancer Out next month, and and it's like for some odd reason I told myself I was like, let's just train as hard as we can up until the date and let's see what happens. And I was like, all right, sure, why not? And I just been at it for like 2 months, just gym and training.
Yep.
So yeah, it's something about it, man. Just something about it that's so addicting.
It is. It's hard to explain to people who have never done it, but like to me, and I don't know, like I know in your earlier podcast you had talked about you had only done one tournament, so obviously you've done more recently. But so maybe you have or haven't experienced this yet. But I talk to a lot of people at our gym when they're doing their first tournament, and I try to warn them about this. And my coach warned me about it. But it's so real, okay? It's this visceral. I don't know how to explain it. Like the first tournament, your coach can tell you you're going to have an adrenaline dump. You're not going to be able to feel your forearms. Like you can hear all that, right? And you're like, oh, yeah, okay. But until you experience it, you just can't imagine how real it is.
You can't, right?
I mean, you come away from that first match and you just gripped so hard the whole match, or you held your breath or what, and you're like, you can't feel your forearms. You can't squeeze your hand. But to me, what is incredible is like the more I've done them, you get to where, number one, you're not squeezing and killing your forearms. You don't have the adrenaline dump. But then when you get to a point where you're literally thinking in the match, as if you were thinking in a role in the gym, that's when it becomes so much fun. So now you got people screaming and yelling, you got a referee, you got your coach, but you're literally thinking to yourself, wait a minute, if I move my knee there, he's probably going to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm going to reach up and grab that lapel, and you start thinking during the match. That's when it becomes so much fun. It's hard to explain.
Oh yeah, no, I get it, because that's one of the things that my instructor, he kind of drilled in us since day one. Always, making sure you're thinking about your next move. You're thinking it's like chess, and we'll have like so many, like, I guess you want to say like random days where we'll go like technique, and then one class would be like hard rolls, the whole entire class. So, and we just so happen to have one recently, and I think it's been a while since we had one, but we had one recently, and just it's just funny. Like, we looking at all the like white belts and our couple blue belts, they're just spent. They're just sucking air, still on the side, just dead. And I'm just sitting there bouncing around like, so who's next? Who's next? Who wants to go? But everyone was just like so tired. But yeah, everyone walked out. They was like squeezing their hands, trying to release that tension in their forearms, and everything just hurts. I was like, yeah, man, this is real jiu-jitsu. But that's how we train. We train, we train hard, so that way once, we get to that point where all our energy is gone, we're tired, and the only thing we have left is technique. Yep.
That's it. So, and the last time we had a pretty significant group of people preparing for this one tournament, what our coach did, and man, you talk about cranking up the level of intensity. So as we approached the tournament, he would pick our partners. He would say, Paul, I want you to go with this guy, and I want you to go. So he's picking us strategically to make sure we work hard and we really go at it. But then at the end of class, we'd all gather around in a circle. And then our Tuesday, Thursday classes, we'll have sometimes 28 to 30 people in class. Pretty big classes for 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And so we'd all gather in a circle, and then he would say, Paul, Brian, out to the center. So now everybody's watching your match. It's like, it feels like a tournament, right? And so the intensity is amped up. And so we did that leading up to it. And like you said, you see some of the guys who hadn't competed. I mean, they're just like panting and they're out of breath and they're dying, And I'm not going to say it was easy for me, but like I'd been in so many tournaments. It's like, okay, let's do this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, both of the times that I had to come out in the center and do it, I ended up in a bad spot. I just stayed calm.
Mm-hmm.
I got back up on top. I got the submission, so you really learn to control that, and it's, I could go way down that path, but yeah, I love it, man. I love it.
Right. Super long story short, it's very important.
Yes.
let's leave it at that, right?
Yep.
All right. So we usually have I deemed it the Talk Your Jits podcast question. I ask everyone this. So your top 3 people, your dream matches, who would you like to roll with?
Yeah, I don't even have to think about this very long. Okay. So number 1, Royce Gracie.
Okay.
And if for no other reason, he is the reason that I fell in love with jiu-jitsu. Like watching him do what he did, Royce Gracie. Number 2, maybe even more so, would be Rickson Gracie. When I started training, and I told this guy, like, my first open mat, I'm like, yeah, man, I watch Royce Gracie. He's like, Royce wasn't even the best, right? I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
He's like, he wasn't the best Gracie. Rickson was. He's like, you need to go watch Choke. So that day I pull up Choke and I watched the documentary and I'm like, oh, Rickson was even better.
Yeah.
So Royce Gracie, then Rickson Gracie. If I had to pick a third one, I think as much as I would love to roll with like the Ruotolo brothers or Mikey Musumeci or one of those guys, I'm going to say Andre Galvao. I just love what Andre Galvao stands for. I love that he's a man of faith and he's not ashamed of that. But also he is a 6-time world champion. The guy's incredible, right? I would love to roll with him. I actually met him at Pan Am's. I met him and took a picture with him, and he was a super nice guy. So that'd probably be my top 3: Royce, Rickson, and then Andre Galvao.
Yeah. They're definitely on my list, especially Andre Galvao. There was this video of Galvao doing this, I guess you want to say this warm-up drill he usually does. And I was like, I got to learn this. I need to learn this. And because the way he moves and crawls and snakes across the mats, it's just like ballet. And I'm like, if I can move just a little bit like that, man, I'll be so much better. I haven't tried it in a while though. I'm gonna have to see if I can see what I can do now.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to like the first several episodes of your podcast, and you're talking about snaking. And I'm sitting there like, what is he talking about? And then I realized it's what we call shrimping.
Shrimping, yep.
Shrimps. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Shrimping is foundational to jiu-jitsu. And so when you were saying snakes, I was like, what's he talking about? So now I know.
Yeah, I think a few episodes in when I would talk to people and they, I would say snake. I was like, I need to start saying shrimping too, because a lot of people say shrimp. There's a lot more people that say shrimping versus snakes.
Yeah, that's what I always heard it called.
Yeah, I was like, I gotta remember that next time. But yeah, snake, shrimping, same thing.
Yeah, so right, I don't know. I know we're probably going to wrap up pretty soon. So I guess a couple things I would want to say is I appreciate what you're doing. Like, I think it's cool that, like I said, you've got this podcast where you don't have any false pretense or anything. You're just like, hey, I'm a brown belt who's trying to get better at jiu-jitsu, and I want to talk to people about jiu-jitsu. I like that. That's a cool way to do it. And then the other thing is, like, I hope when people watch my Instagram videos, I've had some people like try to really criticize, and I'm like, first of all, from the very beginning, I said, I am not some black belt professor instructor, okay? Secondly, I'm doing this on a dog. You can't make every technique look perfect. His body's shaped a little bit differently.
Right.
So it's just to have fun. It's not to say I know any more than anybody else. There are blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, black belts in my gym who know 100 times more about jiu-jitsu than me. But I do one day want to be a phenomenal teacher. I want to be a jiu-jitsu instructor. And so I talk to my coach often about that. I get his feedback. And while now I know I'm not an instructor, I'm not a professor, one day I do want to be, and I'm just going to keep honing my skills, having fun with Wrigley, trying to make people smile, competing as much as I can. And hey, I'm 4-stripe blue now for quite a while, so I'm sneaking up on that next.
You're getting there. You're getting there.
Yeah, so I love it, and I hope more and more people will as well.
Yeah, man. And it's funny, and that's literally how I started this podcast. I saw some videos about people opening up about how jiu-jitsu changed their lives, and I was like, I talk about that. I preach it like it's a religion, so it's like every time somebody's like, talk about stress or whatever, I'm like, hey, you should come try jiu-jitsu. Really, come try jiu-jitsu.
May I tell you one more thing?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So when I started training, I was not looking for community. I was not looking for family. I wasn't looking for that, right? I had parents who loved me. I've got a wonderful wife of 33 years. I wasn't looking for community or family or anything.
Right.
But man, did I find it. I mean, literally those guys and gals that I train with at 6 a.m., they have become family. So from my Instagram, 3 weeks ago, I lost my mom, right?
Yep.
So my mom passed away unexpectedly. Her health had been declining, but we thought we still had, 5, 6, 7 years, who knows? So it was out of the blue. My church family was awesome. My church family was great. My friends and family were. But what shocked me is how much love my jiu-jitsu family showered on me. I mean, I went in to train the day of my mom's funeral that morning at 6 a.m. They had this big bouquet of flowers they brought me. They had me crying at the end of our 6 a.m. class, but they're just hugging on me and loving on me and saying, hey, man, if you need anything, call me. And they mean it. And I know it's probably like this with your crew. Like, I literally could pick up the phone and I could call DJ, Corey, Monty. I mean, I could name Jen, all these people I train with. I could pick up the phone and say, I need your help. And they would say, tell me when and where, I'll be there.
Yeah.
It really is a community. And here's the other cool thing. I go to tournaments. I'll see a guy that I competed against 3 years ago, and we're buddies.
Yeah.
I'll see somebody I cross-trained with 4 years ago at his gym, and we're buddies. It really is a community. Jiu-jitsu's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, same, man. Like I stumbled across jiu-jitsu. I told that story millions of times. I got there and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is cool. I fell in love with this, started to fall in love with the sport. And then, blink, boom, 6 years later, I talk to the guys I train with every single day.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
It's
awesome.
like we got like 4 different group chats going on, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok, everything. We're just texting. We could be all in the same room. We're still texting each other.
Yeah.
Like random videos and jiu-jitsu videos. But yeah, like for example, my instructor, we work together.
Yeah.
Well, I work with him, and it's like, it's every day. It's like, we'll go to work Monday, we'll talk, blah, blah, blah. Tuesday come, we'll talk. We'll, later that night we do class. Wednesday, we're talking about Tuesday, preparing for Thursday. And it's just every day, man. Every day is just something jiu-jitsu related.
Yeah. And we're all sending each other memes. Like, like you see the meme that says, when professor says roll 50%, and it'll show like 2 animals killing each other. And we're sending those memes back and forth, I mean, it's just
right.
They really do become your crew, man. They become your friends, your family, your community. And it's, if there's anybody out there who's on the fence and they're like, maybe I should try, maybe I shouldn't, I don't, try it.
Try it.
Go take a class, man. You will love it. And if you don't love it and it's not for you, what did it hurt to try?
Right. What did it hurt? It does not hurt at all. Like, I just saw a video a couple of days ago. Older lady. She got her first stripe on her white belt. Completely oblivious to what's going on. Her teacher is like, giving this speech, this speech about, her showing up and training. And she's, he's tying it and she's like, now what's this for? You know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious.
So he breaks it down like you're training, you're being consistent, but the necessities of I feel like a jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get it on their first try. Just consistent. Like if you show up consistently, eventually you're going to get better. And she was just like, okay, okay. I was just I just didn't think nothing of it, just showing up to class. And I was like, that's the biggest part. That's the hugest part.
That's
but
it.
Yeah,
that's,
Paul,
that's one of my favorite quotes ever. Chris Howder. He says, you're going to be somewhere 10 years from now.
10 years from now.
Why not be there and be a black belt? He said, you just can't quit. Just keep showing up.
It's not about how he said.
Yeah, he says it's not about who's best. It's about who's
best. About who's last. Who last? Yep. Yep. Exactly. I got the pleasure of meeting him a few years ago too. Yeah. The same way he's on social media and online is how he is in person. So. But yeah, Paul, unless you got anything else, man, you want to add or any other questions, I would love for you to shout out your school, your social media pages, especially Wrigley. I see he decided to take off.
Yeah, well, my wife's down there cooking. He smelled the food, so he went.
Oh, he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go over here. But yeah, man, if you got anything else you want to add or say, the floor is all yours, sir.
Yeah, so my Instagram is PaulHunter7 at PaulHunter7. Post mostly all Instagrams. I mean, jiu-jitsu stuff. Mm-hmm. Wrigley's Instagram page is at Wrigley the Bulldog, DAWG. I've got a YouTube page where I share a lot of those. It's PaulHunterJiuJitsu on YouTube. I've got an Etsy shop where we're selling, Wrigley Never Taps merchandise. So it's PaulHunterJiuJitsu on Etsy. But yeah, I just my goal, I'm 54 now. I just want to be a black belt by the time I'm 60. So I got 6 more years to get from 4-stripe blue to get a black belt. And you know what? If it ends up taking me to 65 or 70, I don't care. I just want to keep training.
Amen. And I can't wait to come back and have another conversation with you, Paul, because this has been an honor and it's been amazing, man. So definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your time with me, man.
Thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it. And I'll keep listening to your podcast.
I appreciate it. And that's the end of today's episode. I would like to thank Paul once again for coming on the show, and Wrigley, who decided to take off because, mom was cooking. So, but I enjoyed you guys thoroughly. Please go and follow our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages to stay up to date on all future episodes. This has been Talk Your Jits podcast. Keep rolling, keep grinding, and remember, long live Jiu Jitsu. Have a great day. And we're done.